mentioned templates. When does that come into it? Before we did the listening exercise, we talked about trust and respect and relationships and building that over time. You know, does that then become a session, or is that something that filters through as you go along? I mean, there's some aspects of it that actually require time set aside for it rather than kind of letting it drift into conversation. So when does that kick in?
So I guess the listening, the developing trust and respect comes into building a relationship with the students so that they are willing to be open with you and they are willing to enter this kind of conversation. This technique then actually comes into the conversation. So if as a student I come up to you and I say to you, I've got this real problem, I've got this project at the moment and I need to I don't know, create a campaign and I don't know where to start. Then that's where you start asking me, okay, what does this campaign require you to do? What do you really want to achieve? Does that make sense?
Yes. It makes sense at the beginning of the project. So when they've set up a new brief, you need to start developing it. But does it make sense to go through this process when they're halfway through the project? Find a capacity to reevaluate their goals, reevaluate where they are in the process. But so when do you apply the strategy? Is it just at the beginning, or is it constantly throughout the process? Because they may be kind of pissed off if you constantly go back, 3 or 4 steps.
I mean, a typical scenario would be, so we've had a coaching conversation, I'm feeling really great about my project. Two weeks into it, I'm working with other students, and I realise that I'm not getting on with one of them. That's a different problem that I have, and I come to you and I tell you, I've got this real problem, I'm not getting on with them, we're not seeing eye to eye, I don't know what to do, I need to get off this project. So you can then enter this kind of conversation with me again, looking at different things. So rather than just looking at the project, looking at other problems I might have within that project. Does that make sense?
I think it's a review in that respect, isn't it? So it's reviewing what they've done, reevaluating where they're going forward.
And also looking at the challenges that are coming out of that particular project and also helping me with those. So with a particular aspect rather than the project all over again.
I just wanted to comment on that in terms of this thing when it's not right at the beginning. I've found that you can use stuff like this if either people have set themselves the wrong goal and they've got halfway through or midway through a process which actually isn't in the right direction, and what will happen is they'll end up with all sorts of issues and problems because they haven't set it. So using this to reassess what direction they're facing in. Very often they would have given themselves things which are useful through a process of going in the wrong direction. But what this allows them to do, that's kind of where the reality thing comes in. What things have you learned or have you got that you can take away with you? So actually it can, it's very often it is useful at the beginning, but in terms of realigning people, it can work as well.
I guess you also raise a really good point there that sometimes we can get the goal wrong. Not what in fact Katie and I were having a conversation, and there's a great quote there which is never take a project as given.
Never accept a project.
Never accept a project as given. And sometimes I guess this is the key thing. In fact, I find in my sessions when I'm coaching people, I spend half of my session on the go, because we really need to make sure that this is right and clear and specific and measurable, and these will fall into place.
Simple question, and it may be way off the mark, is that people are emotionally motivated by two things, if I'm right. Some are away motivated, some are toward motivated. I am motivated by pain or gain. Does that sort of work with this approach?
Really interesting. So sometimes I'll get people who come to me and say, my goal is to stop feeling stressed, so moving away from something. And actually the first question that I ask is, how can we turn this into something that you're moving away from to something you're moving towards from? The idea is to always look